Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Hope everybody's doing okay today. Today we've got a little bit of an extra stream. We're going to try and knock out some more of this language parser stuff and debug it and see how far we can get with it today. I wanted to make a little bit more progress with this, so I figured maybe we'd do a little bit of an extra stream today, see how it goes. Supe, good to see you. How are you doing? So before we jump into the stream, I do want to take just a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel listed here on the screen, starting with the partners. They are the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. I'd also like to thank all the other supporters listed here. They are a combination of the other tiers of subscription over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. With that, I would also like to thank all of the viewers, either on the Twitch side or the YouTube side. We do simulcast, so I'd like to thank you guys for being here, following along, or if you're watching this in the future, hello and welcome. I would like to thank you guys for following along and all the support. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Okay, so looking forward to watching some bug squashing, and apparently me tripping over my words. Yeah, so hopefully we can get pretty far with this today. I don't know if we'll actually get it up and running, but we'll see. That's the goal, right? So where we left off last time was we had kind of gotten our parser more or less code complete, at least to the point where we want to test it. But we were running into some issues with compilation, and I'll need to do some work in order to get the main engine to compile, because there were some other things that we did before the parser where we kind of changed the structures and things, and it looks like I have some just a few items to kind of clean up with that first. So my idea for this is what we're going to do is we're going to first get it compiling, and then we are going to test our parser, probably writing some unit tests for it, just to make it a little bit easier to test. And then once we are sure that our parser is working reasonably and building out our tree that we want, then we can go ahead and start working on getting that loader set up. Okay, so that is kind of the plan, at least for now. All right, so where we left off last time was in the terrain loader, and just as a refresher for that, we actually had separated out the way that the terrain loader works. So the terrain itself has a couple of different things. So we now have the concept of a terrain config, which is what is included in a scene file. And that gives us the name of it, as well as a resource name. And then the resource itself is going to now be known as a terrain resource. This terrain resource is what contains most of the data that the config used to create. So we basically just need to convert the terrain loader to output a terrain resource instead of a terrain config. This to me makes a little bit more sense. We might actually rename terrain config to something else as well. That makes a little bit more sense. But we'll kind of tackle one thing at a time here, right? All right, Villager, good to see you. Hello. You got ads, so you'll be back. All right, that's weird. Did you get like a pre-roll ad or something? It's a little bit weird. I thought I had those disabled. At least I could have swore I did. Let me know if you got a pre-roll, and I'll look into that. A pre-roll ad. I thought I had those disabled. I wonder if that only disables after the first ad run. Maybe that's it. I'll have to fix that if that's the case. Let's see. Let's Blend over on the YouTube side. Hello. And Kokala, hello. Yeah, early stream. Yep. We're doing a little bit different timing today just to kind of feel it out, see how it works, right? My analytics were telling me that this was a decent time to stream, so I'm trying it. You finally got your Vulkan drawing a 3MF. 3MF. Oh, you mean like the format 3MF? Nice. That's such an old format. I forgot about it. All right. Yeah, it's a model format. Yep. It took me a second to recognize what that was. Okay, so instead of our resource data being a terrain config, we are going to have that be a terrain resource. Right. So we're just going to terrain resource. And I don't think that might actually be all we have to do in here. Might have literally just been changing the type. Okay, so this makes sense. So our unload also has to be changed over to a terrain resource. Let's see, is there anything else in here? I don't think so, but the terrain, oops. The terrain C file might need some changes. Let's see. Actually, I might have already done it in here. That might have literally been all I have to do. Let's build this and see. It's so common for CAD, so you need to support it. Fair enough. It's probably in the list of formats I'll be supporting as well. Mr. Arnie, first time chat, welcome. Finally, first time in stream. Well, welcome. Glad to see you here. Let's Blender, also a first time chat, welcome. What's your favorite language outside of C if C is your favorite? So, yeah, C is my favorite language. Second favorite language would... Let's see. I feel like saying C++ is probably a cop-out, right? So I won't say that. I would have to say probably, because I've not really thought about this in a while, probably C#. If you're looking for something outside of that, I would have to say TypeScript. The model spec hypes it up, and the lib3mf codebase is so big for some reason, for some zipped XMLs. Yeah, exactly. You already did it in 120 lines of Jai. Nice. Yeah, so that's the thing about those. Like, I'll probably wind up supporting Collada too, which is also XML. So yeah, we're gonna wind up writing parsers for all that stuff too. So hashtag let's get Travis to 75. Yeah, what Supe is talking about there is 75 average viewers, right? So I realized last night the only thing that I'm missing for Twitch partner is actually an average of 75 viewers. I actually meet all the other criteria, which is crazy. Why is C my favorite? So, combination of reasons. It's close enough to the metal without being assembly that I can eke out any performance that I want to get out of it. And also its language simplicity, right? C++ is pretty complicated, verbose, and just, I don't know, it's not exactly a simple language, right? And so I just like C for its simplicity, compilation speed, portability, all of those things, right? Plus, I've been using it for a while. So, yeah, I would say that's probably why. Let's see, Riley, hello. Good to see you. What does the language look like? So you're meaning the actual, the language that we're writing the processor for? So that is, what did I call this? What did I call that? Test scene 2. Looks like this, right? So it's very similar to JSON. And actually, what's funny about that is we called it KSON, right? So KSON, because JSON is JavaScript object notation. And this is basically like Kohi's kind of version of that. So there are a few syntactical differences, like we allow comments all over the place. We don't require commas and semicolons, at least for now. And I plan on adding some custom types along with this as well. So we're just kind of, this is at least the initial version of the language that we're going to support. And so we've written our our tokenizer and our parser, and we're just about ready to actually start testing it. But what I need to do is just finish up some compilation issues on some previous stuff that I did that led me to write the language in the first place. So that's kind of what we're doing now. Let's see. What did I closed out the build without actually looking. Hierarchy graph, create and destroy. Oh, unresolved external symbol. Oh, okay. I'm probably just not exporting those then. So our hierarchy graph just needs create and destroy exported. So that is probably just missing K APIs. Oh, it's here though. It's a little bit weird. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate that. Welcome. You thought it was like a scripting language. So, I think this might wind up turning into that at some point, actually. Believe it or not. Because one of the things that I did when I was writing this was try and take some of that stuff into account. So we actually have some stubs in there for like different types of operators and stuff like that. So we may wind up having a scripting language out of this. We'll see. Not 100% sure yet. I initially said I wasn't going to put a scripting language into the core, and I still kind of don't want to. But the reason I wrote this one was because I want to have some sort of format that I can use to represent a lot of different types of data. So maybe I'll extend this into a scripting language as a plugin or something like that. I haven't really decided yet. All right, why is it saying that that's an undefined external symbol? We are exporting this. Unresolved, rather. Did we actually not create them? Maybe that's the problem. I'll bet that's it, actually. So let's... Whoops, that's the wrong hierarchy graph. There we go. Oh, I stubbed them out, but I didn't actually create them. Okay. All right, I think what I'm going to do for right now is just do this with a big to-do in here, etc. And I'm going to just k-assert for now, not implemented. Just because I'm not going to use this right away, we'll come back to it. And I'm also going to do this. That way this is not going to hold us up in testing our language. So let me build this. Okay. Testbed main. Ooh, our testbed main actually has some problems with this as well. So we changed out how our lighting works and how object queries are done from the scene. So we have a point light get, and I think that's actually the only thing that it calls. Okay, so if we go to testbed main, I think that said it was 1148. Yeah, here we go. This is all the way at the bottom. So when we load main scene, Rob Mux, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. So at this point, this is going to wind up all completely changing anyways. Because the way our scenes are going to be loaded are going to be through our new parser, and it's going to give us like a tree configuration type of thing. So this is going to wind up completely changing. I am actually going to just say this is equal to that for right now. And then to do fix once seen loading works again. All right. Good to see the new fossilers are coming. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you noticed, actually, I added a new command for that. I think it's called fossilage. It's spelled like that, I believe. I don't know if it works yet because I can't test it on myself, right? But yes, it's there. Fossilage is a thing. It exists. Transform world get. Okay, so our deprecated view pick is also... I really need to convert that and just kill it at some point. Because I keep having to fix this. Get xform from hierarchy. If I can spell it. So we need to change this to get the transform from the hierarchy. We're not using this view right now, so I'm just kind of plugging that in for now, just so we can get it to compile. Okay, now we're building at least, so that's good. Fossilage moment, yeah, exactly. Okay. So I think the next thing that we should do is we should build some tests for this. Before I do that, though, did we export everything in our parser? Not 100% sure we did. Oh, we did. Okay, cool. So this will be a little bit easier then. So under tests, and I know we haven't actually been using this for a bit. In fact, we might not even be building that. I'm going to have to check. But we're going to add a new folder here, and I'm going to call this... I guess I'll call it parsers for right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take one of these tests, right? And just kind of use it as a template. So I'll put this... Oh, I created this as a file. I don't want to do that. Yes, I want to remove that. I need to add... Forgot I have to put a trailing slash there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to copy this. I don't want to cut it. I want to paste it. There we go. Copy this, paste it. We'll rename this to, we'll call this KSON parser tests. And we'll do KSON parser tests. Right? And all this one is going to be is just KSON parser register tests. And then I think here it's probably going to be easiest to just do a find and replace. So we'll do, let's see, linear allocator underscore, and we'll replace that with KSON parser underscore, and we'll make that global. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to take one of these, delete the rest of them. And we'll just use this as sort of our template, right? So this one. Okay, so we use that, and then kill everything else, right? So we have case and parser creates. This is going to be case and parser. We'll call this parser. Instead of memory allocator, we'll do parsers, case and parser. And then I think, what does this want? Just the parser. So let's do this. So we'll just do parser. We'll take care of the expects in a second. We'll just change this to parser. And let's see. So our parser, do we do any sort of initialization in here? I forget. So we set the position to 0. The token should not be 0, and the file content should be 0. Okay, so let's do in terms of should not be 0, we'll say parser tokens. Should be 0. Should be parser position. And then also file content. Right? And then when we delete this, it should 0 everything, I believe. Yeah, it looks like it does. So I'm actually just going to take this and put it here and change this to a should be 0. Okay, so that's our first test there, and then we'll say case and parser should create and destroy, right? That's the most basic of our tests, just to make sure that everything's hooked up correctly. So I guess I'll do test main. And we will register our tests here. I'm going to put our tests towards the top so that they're the very first ones to run. So we'll say we need to first off include. And we'll do, what do we put that under? Parsers, case and parser tests. All right, and we'll do case and parser register unit tests. Okay, and we should be good there. That way when we actually run this thing, we should be good to go. So let me build that real quick. NoobMine, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. Let's see. Does it build? Yes, sir, cool. Now deploy it in the production. But sir, we don't have any time to waste, do it. Yeah, I know, right? Been there, done that many times throughout my career. Tammin, good to see you. How are you doing? Finally caught a Sunday stream. Nice. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We're just doing a little bit of an extra stream today. Just kind of testing out the Sunday stream sort of theory, right? I was looking through my analytics and I noticed that Sunday streams seem to be doing pretty well. So we're giving that a shot today and seeing how it goes. And it kind of allows us to get caught up and move forward a little bit further. Let's see. Philippe over on YouTube side. Hello. Average viewer. Is this Linux OS you're using? Not at the moment. No, I'm on Windows. But I do almost have my Linux install like reset up. So I should actually be able to switch over to that sometime soon. It's just not quite there yet, but it is coming along. We do switch back and forth quite often. I've had to be on Windows for a little bit because of some NVIDIA driver issues that I was running into. But I think I have most of that stuff sorted, so we'll see. Let's see. First time chat, Grim Heartless, is this Linux OS? I'm assuming that's probably from the YouTube side. Same question. I do watch both, but it takes me a minute sometimes. Yes, okay, cool. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate it. From like over on the YouTube side, good to see you too. You're on video 59, awesome. You're going to do some groceries, keep the video on. I appreciate the lurk, thank you. Which do you prefer, C or C++, despite being almost identical? They're not identical whatsoever, I would say. C++ is far more complicated, complex, but also feature-rich, right? C++ is really built on top of C, so they're not really identical, right? You can program C++ in a C-like style. Not the other way around, obviously. But yeah, I would say I strongly prefer C because it's a far simpler language. It compiles faster. As a result of that, there's other reasons, right? But mostly preference, right? But yeah, I would definitely not say they're identical. Just saw the YouTube short and jumped over here because my phone hates YouTube Live sometimes. Now that's fair enough. I appreciate that. Oh, Nippon Pod, thank you for the subscription, tier 1 subscription. I appreciate the support there. Thank you. Welcome. What parts of C++ are more complicated do you mean because of the OOP side? I mean, you can do OOP and C, right? But mostly what I mean is, things like templates, all of the keywording, all the namespacing, all that stuff. All the operator overloading, all of the features that C++ adds on top of C, right? It's a far more complex language, right? And so I don't use any of those things, so why use the language, right? Needed to figure out why Twitch isn't notifying me when your stream starts. Isn't there like a little bell icon thingy? I think. For like notifications as to when it starts, I think. Grim Heartless, thank you for the 2 bits. Appreciate that. Operator overloading is so freaking handy. I couldn't do without it anymore. Same with const expression hashing. Yeah, so out of everything in C++ that I do miss, it's probably constant expression hashing. I can't talk today. I would say it's that and some operator overloads, right? The fact that C++ overrides, this, or I think it's this, depending on whether you're inputting or outputting, is very, very strange to me. And it does that by default, and it's not exactly immediately obvious, right?
Chat.
Apothum, thank you for the resub. I appreciate that. How are you doing? Welcome. Appreciate the 2 months subscription there. Thank you for the support. So I do wish I had operator overloading for like things like vector multiplication and stuff like that, addition. But I've learned to live without it, right? So to me, it's not that big of a deal. But those are probably some of the only features that I really miss out of C++, to be completely honest. Do you like the back end or front end? Are you talking about in terms of like web development? In terms of web development, I do full stack, so it doesn't really matter to me. Let's see. I've done that before, C++ with just C standard library headers. Yeah, exactly. Like that was the way I wrote my C++ anyways, was very C-like. I call it C++ light. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't use enough of C++ to make it worth it. So. All right. You have to do some cursed macro shenanigans. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We are going to be having ads here in a second, by the way. Oh, I just realized there's a hype train going. I guess Twitch didn't notified me of that right away. It's kind of delayed, I guess, today. That's pretty cool. So thank you for the hype train. Appreciate that. Okay. So I think I caught up on chat. But we are going to have ads here in a few seconds, so I'm not going to continue in the code just yet. We'll continue on that when we get back. I do like to pause the stream whenever ads come up so that nobody misses any content. So those will be starting here in just a second, and then we'll come back after that. So I usually encourage people to hydrate when the ads are running. I put a timer up on the screen so that you guys know exactly when we're going to be back. All right. Why did it auto snooze my ads and then run them? What? All right. Twitch is being a little bit weird with ads today, apparently. I know over there on the YouTube side, it's a little bit different for you guys in terms of how ads work and stuff like that. So I know it probably doesn't always make sense to you, but over on the Twitch side, we get ads once every 30 minutes for up to 90 seconds. So I like to just kind of cover all the bases there and pause the stream whenever ads come up. For some reason, Twitch decided to like auto snooze my ads today. I don't understand why it did that. It did it like twice, actually. It's very strange. All right. Just a little bit longer on ads, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, I think we are done with ads. Perfect. Anonymous Gifter, thank you for the gifted tier 1 subs. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the support on that. Really appreciate that. Hot Flaw with the stretch routine. Thank you for that. Thank you for the follow as well. Anonymous Gifter, thank you so much for the gifted tier 1 subs. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. We got a hype train level 2 success. Awesome. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Hype trains are a bit of a rare event, so I definitely appreciate them. Okay. So, now let's write some other tests, specifically dealing with reading in our test file, right? So we should look at, let's see, where was, so we're basically going to load up this file. And I guess we'll just call this U8 KSON parser should tokenize file content, I guess. All right. Oh, that should be a U8. And FYI, the reason we use a U8 here and I'm returning true or false is because there are actually 3 valid values that can return from this. So it can return false if the test fails, which would be the same as 0. It can return true if the test succeeds, which is the same as 1. And then it can also return a 2 if we want to skip it for some reason or bypass it. So we've actually declared a token in here that we can actually use to bypass unit tests if we don't want them to run, right? Or if we don't care about the result, right? So that's a thing, right? Just to explain why that's there. Okay. So I guess at this point, what we should do is do a string, and we'll just say, how do we want to do this? So we'll say, we'll call this, we should probably include the test file with the test, I think, actually. We should probably not use this one, right? We can use a copy of this one, I suppose. Do we want to use... I guess we could use this one. It's kind of complicated for an initial test, but I think that's okay. I suppose we could probably like iterate through this file and just kind of figure out what our list of tokens should be and then compare that. So let's do in here in our tests. We don't really have any test data in here. I suppose I could just like put this in the actual... I could hard code this string into the test, right? That seems... It's more or less going to wind up being the same thing. Maybe we'll just do that for now. So I'm going to take this and go to... let's go to here. And we'll say static... test file content equals, and then we'll paste maybe. There we go. And we'll do backslashes at the end of all of these so that they get counted as part of the string, right? Oh, you know what? This is going to handle like, this isn't going to handle new lines properly. I'm going to have to like put new, you know, let me not do it this way. Let me just load up a file like I was initially thinking. So I guess we'll take from assets. What do we have this in? Scenes. And we'll take a copy of this and we'll put it into parsers. Yeah, that works. Okay, so that way we can just kind of load this file on its own. So let's do... All right, very cool. We completed the hype train at level 3, 5%. So awesome. Thank you for the support there. I greatly appreciate that. The way is to do a double quote each line. Yeah, I thought about doing that, but then I'm like, you know what? We should probably also make sure that we don't run into any weirdness with carriage return line feeds on Windows versus just new lines on Linux or things like that. So I'm like, we should probably actually just verify that it actually works from a file. Plus, it'll be a lot easier to edit if I just have a file to edit. So I think, yeah, that's probably the way I'm going to do it. And that way it'll just be a lot easier to sort of manage as well. So we'll do test file content equals file system. Oh, you know what? We don't have that. We don't have that up here. So we'll do include platform file system. File system read all text. Okay, we don't have a file handle for that. I didn't think we needed a file handle for that. But I guess we do. I'm going to cheat and grab an example. Just going to do this. All right, so in this case, string formats, is because we don't have string. Include core k string. Resource system base path. So we actually don't want to do that. We just want to do, when we run this, our relative path is going to be bin, right? So we need to go up a directory, then into tests, parsers, and then load the KSN in there. So let's, instead of doing this, let's actually do full file path. So full file path equals tests source parsers, and then test scene 2 KSN. We should probably also move this. Move to test asset folder, which we don't have yet, but it's just a reminder to do that. So we'll go ahead and open the file in read mode. That should be fine. We're going to duplicate. Let's see. Why do we? No, we don't need this. Here we go. Resource data. So resource data is going to be renamed to test file content, right? We're going to allocate a string big enough for that. And then resource data is going to be test file content, right? So we're going to read all of it into that buffer and then close the file. And then start tokenizing. Right. And I'm just going to actually return true if it gets all the way to the bottom there, right? Okay, so that will open our file for us. The other thing that I need to do is actually open the correct file over here. So KSN, let's open that. Oh, wait, that's still the wrong one, actually. We want this one. So what I'm going to do here is unit test version. Right? And then what we'll do is we will call the KSN parser create. Actually, we don't even have to do all that because we already have all this stuff up here. I don't need the expect and all that stuff because we're going to run that test separately, but right, we'll just do that. Okay, and then in here, we're going to say KSN parser. Tokenize. We're going to pass the address of parser. And then as the source, we are going to pass the test file content, right? And this returns a Boolean. So we're going to say if, for some reason, this fails, we will say failed to tokenize, source. Test source. Good enough, right? And then here we'll return false. These are just unit tests. So like if, I mean, I can do some memory cleanup and stuff like that. Right, we'll just write a go-to eventually to do the memory cleanup there. But basically, this should populate the list of tokens in our parser. So the very first thing that we can expect here is we'll grab, I guess, this and come down here. And we'll do a U32 token count. And we're going to set that to 0 initially. Or actually, no, we'll just do a darray length against parser tokens. And that'll give us that. We need darray up here. Containers darray. All right, so we'll get the length of that. Make sure it should not be 0, right? I guess technically speaking, we probably shouldn't do this way. We should probably do B8 parse, or actually I should say tokenize result is equal to that, right? We should do it that way and do an expect on it. So we should do should not be false tokenize result. Actually, I thought we don't we have something for booleans especially to expect to be true. There it is. Right? So tokenize result, we expect that to be true. And then we expect that token count should be not 0, right? And this should give us enough of an entry point, I believe, so that we can actually kind of get testing. All right. Good point on I opened the file in binary mode, and in the special case, the line endings. I'm working on off and on a compiler. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just opening this in text mode, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but it could potentially be, right? So I figure I just might as well handle that, right? Jeet, hello. How's it going? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Else something else. I like your name, by the way. Hey streamer, hey chat. How do you guys manage big projects? Is it a matter of experience? Is it patterns for that? So are you talking in terms of like how the project is structured? Are you talking more in terms of like managing it in terms of like to-do items or Git, or there's a lot to it, right? So I'll show you the way that I'm managing this one, if that makes sense. So essentially it's a combination of things, right? First, I should probably, let me drop a link in chat so that you guys have that link. We have, in this case, a website that sort of serves as a central hub for the whole project, right? So it's kohiengine.com. I've got a link to my YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff, Discord, things like that. But as far as the actual project, if we click on this GitHub link here, I've got the whole thing listed here. I did try using the projects on here, but I found it cumbersome, right? So I do have some information here on how some of this stuff is handled, a README and things like that in terms of how to actually get it supported or up and running, things like that. But in terms of actual like project management and work items and things like that, I found that a little bit cumbersome, especially since I'm the only one working on this. So what I do is I actually have a to-do file that I maintain that I keep all of my items in. Whenever I think of something I want to add or a feature I want to add, I simply add it to this file. And what this winds up doing is providing me with a list of everything, not in any specific order, right? I've got a few categories. So I have like engine general here that's got a whole bunch of stuff in it. And then I have some renderer specific stuff in here that we've got to do. And then I've got things I want to implement as plugins, UI features, the editor, other stuff like that, right? And anytime I complete work, I just X one of these out, right? And so that's how I'm kind of handling it here, because I found anything more than this is a little bit cumbersome for a project of this size. Obviously, if we were to have more team members, we'd probably want something a little bit more robust than this, but sometimes I find low tech is best, right? Sometimes simpler is better. So we have this, and then we also have a change log where we spell out the changes in plain English, right? And so a combination of those things is kind of how we manage this project. Over on the repo itself, if there are, if there are bugs and stuff, we do have like an issue log here. And it looks like there's some pull requests I need to go through as well. So we do maintain a list of bugs this way. So if you do find a bug or something, feel free to report it here. Some of the ones that we have here are feature requests, enhancements, things like that. So it's kind of an all-in-one thing. And what I'll wind up doing is whenever I see a feature in here that I want to implement, eventually I'll make it as part of the to-do list, and I'll get it out of here. But yeah, that's kind of the way I manage this project, just because it's just me. So I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, let me know. Most of the engines are written in C++. Why did you choose C? So a couple of reasons. C++ is a very feature-rich, complex language, and most of those features I don't use. I don't do OOP, so I don't need classes and all that kind of stuff. I also don't use a majority of the language features in C++. So I just kind of decided to use C instead because it's a far simpler language. It compiles far faster. And I just like it better overall. So it's a little bit preference. I do have some technical reasons behind it, but the other thing is if the central code base is written in C and somebody wants to write a plugin in C, they can do that. But if they want to write a plugin in C++, they can also do that. If I were to write the central system in C++, the opposite might not be true if I don't do it right? Also, C does not have the STL, which I consider a good thing. I don't use templates, right? So, yes, that's a big thing, right? And what about structure of the projects? Do you have some kind of template? So I don't really have a template per se. We do have a little bit of a structure that I've come up with, and I'm probably going to write a utility to stand up a new project. But right now, the way it's kind of set up, and I'm thinking about I might tweak this slightly in the near future, is we have the engine core, which is a shared library. So under that, there's just our source, as you might expect. And so the engine is one project you can think of if you were thinking of this in like Visual Studio project terms, right? So we have the engine there. We have the test bed, which is the application or the consuming application that drives the engine. So this is just a very lightweight bit of code, right? All the test bed is basically just a bootstrap entry point. And we store all of the logic for the application, in this case, which we call the test bed, right? In the test bed lib. And the reason we do that is because the test bed lib is hot reloadable. So we can actually be running the test bed application, change game logic or application logic, and that will hot reload as long as we don't change memory layout and things like that. And also there's the separation of concerns, right? So we have that. Each of these are their own projects, right? And then we have our tests, which is what I'm working in now for like our unit tests. You can think of it like that. It's sort of our own little framework that we've written. Tools, which right now is kind of defunct because the only tool we had in here was a external shader compilation process, which we compile our shaders during runtime now. So that's no longer really needed, but this will be essentially a collection of runtime tools or command line tools that will exist for like converting file formats, things like that. And then we have the Vulkan renderer, which is our renderer backend plugin, for Vulkan, right? So all of our Vulkan logic is encapsulated in here. And the rest of our engine knows nothing about it. Our engine only has the concept of a renderer front end, which provides an API for the rest of the engine to interface with. And then we have renderer backends like Vulkan renderer that provide the API specific logic. So eventually we'll have another one of these for Direct 3D. We'll have another one of these for Metal, maybe one for OpenGL. And then the application could choose which plugins it uses. Speaking of plugins, we also have standard UI. So our UI system is actually a plugin and is not required to be used. Our UI system at the moment is pretty simple. We only have a few controls, but eventually it's going to have, a plethora of controls, all the standard controls you would expect. Buttons, text boxes, scroll containers, things of that nature. And so not every application needs that, right? So like our editor application might need that, but our runtime game might not. And so it's up to the application as to whether or not the UI system gets included or whether the game maybe uses its own, right? Audio is the same way. So we have an OpenAL audio plugin here. We might have other audio plugins in the future, but again, this is another front-end, back-end type of system, right? So that's kind of the way that we've organized our code right now. It's a little bit weird because it sits in line with all of our assets, which live here, and our binaries, which live here. So it's a little bit weird that it sits side by side of those things. We might wind up changing that in the near future, but that's the way it's currently organized. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. I actually had a question about that. Why choose a DLL and not just build all the renders? Won't the optimization be better? Well, I mean optimization in terms of what, right? So all the renderers that might work for that platform. But again, like if we decide that we only want to run DirectX, for example, then why include Vulkan? For example, if we decide we only want to use OpenGL, why do we need to include the others that might work? We don't want to force the end user to use one or the other. We want to let them choose, essentially. Because remember, for every renderer backend that your application has to support, that's another vector for bugs, theoretically, right? So if an end user decides, you know what, I don't want to deal with Vulkan bugs, right? I only want to support DirectX and deal with bugs as they rise on DirectX, and I don't want to have to fix it across multiple platforms. They can choose to do that, right? And it makes it very easy to do. The other reason is because the other reason I did DLLs is because I can release a patch for the backend renderer for Vulkan, for example. Once we actually have our release set up, I can say here, for anybody that's using version 0.7 of this, here's a 0.7.1. You can just build a new DLL and then load that up at runtime, and it will fix the bug without them having to rebuild their application. Yeah. So it's a nice way for me to be able to patch that in a modular sense without having to have them rebuild the application if they don't want to. So it makes patching easier as well. Okay. Let me check on the YouTube side. Antec, good to see you. Hello. Finally caught a stream. Welcome. Retro U, good to see you. Progress is good. We just started writing unit tests actually for our parser so that we can start debugging it and seeing how it works. Is there any difference between an XForm and a transform? Yes, there is right now. So transforms are sort of our legacy system, and XForms are the new system that we have. The difference being is the way that the data is represented internally, as well as transforms had a sense of hierarchy, whereas XForms don't. And that's the way we're moving forward. Hierarchy is actually going to be handled externally because not every transform needs to have a hierarchy, right? And not every hierarchy needs to transform. So we separated those concerns, and that's why we have that. Eventually, I'm going to remove transforms and probably rename XForms to transform. And then there won't be a difference between them, and Xforms will just kind of be a separate thing. But I name them separately so I can keep it separate in my head. As we convert everything over from transforms to use Xforms. And then once that conversion is complete, everything's working, we'll go ahead and remove transforms. And then in a separate pass, we will rename Xforms to transforms. Hope that makes sense. Let's see. That's what I want for my engine as well. Multiple backends in case one has a bug to use another as a workaround. That's another thing. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So that's kind of the idea. Okay. So let's just go back here. So I think we've already set this up to run. The only thing that we're going to do right now is basically just call it to tokenize. We're not going to like validate the output that it gives us. We just want to actually see if it runs. So let's build this. Okay. And bear in mind, we haven't run this at all yet, so I don't know what to expect. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this as our debugger. And I'm actually going to close everything. And we're going to open... okay, apparently the... let's see, case and parser tests. And we are going to breakpoint. We're going to breakpoint a couple things. I want to make sure that the file actually loads first. Because I think I've gotten this right, but I'm not 100% sure. And then we'll read the file content. And then right before tokenize, I'm going to put another breakpoint. Right? So let's go ahead and switch over to, instead of launching the testbed, we're going to launch unit tests. Okay. So I probably did not build tests, if I had to guess. So that's going to be... what did I... how did... I remember I changed that somewhere. Was it debug? Oh, it was build all. Okay. So we'll go into buildall.bat because we're on Windows. And I think... yeah. I disabled tests. And I think I did that because we weren't really using them for a while. And it was just another build step that was making things take longer. Right. So we should be good on that. And I'm actually going to do the same thing in the shell script. Let's see, where is that? Here we go. Okay. Looks like we still have another space there. Let's get rid of that as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and build this again. Make sure our tests build. Should. Unused variable token count. I thought we did. Did we not? Oh. I didn't actually include it here. Token count. Okay, our test built successfully. So now let's go ahead and run. And this should be the very first thing that actually runs. So we should be... run tests. Did I not add... Why didn't we get a break? Oh, I know why. I forgot to actually call the test, right? I need to call the test at the bottom. I only had the create and destroy, right? So this should, what do we call this? Should tokenize. So we'll go should tokenize file content. Oops. Tokenize file content. Yeah, VS Code, I know. Yeah, I'm still using it as my debugger. I haven't switched over to a different one yet. We have ads. So for those of you who are new to the stream, we like to pause during ads. We are served ads once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds on Twitch. I know YouTube works a little bit differently, but I'd just like to kind of cover our bases on that so that nobody misses any content. And I always suggest that you guys hydrate as well during these because everybody should be hydrating, right? It's a healthy thing to do. And Supe Inca, that's evil. I should implement a thing where in chat randomly you input an A or an A colon into your code every 30 minutes. That robot was a colon, yeah. That's rude. Oh man, that would screw me up like hardcore too, because it probably wouldn't always show up. It'd be like in the middle of a string or something. No one really says to hydrate back, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that everybody should try to hydrate, you know, and I put a timer up on the screen to make it easier, right? So that's the idea. So you guys know exactly how long you have. Thank you, Supe. Appreciate it. All right, ads are dead. Let's see. So we have this. So let's run this guy. And now we should hit our breakpoint. There we go. So we did not open the file. So why not? Thank you for the follow, Big Bands. Appreciate that. So I wonder, this should have the, let me double check something, the working directory. Maybe the working directory is not correct for this one. So the current working directory for testbed is this. But, oh, bin tests is the, wait, no, the current working directory is correct here too. So it should be, so we should go up a directory from bin. That'll put us in the base folder. And then we should wind up in tests, source. Oh, I think I forgot the source, didn't I? Nope. Test source, parsers, test scene. Oh, there's no underscore here. That's why. That's why. Because I typed the dingus file name wrong. Okay. So we'll rebuild that. You say that is a good thing. Yeah, exactly. I figured that's what you meant. Yeah. Do I know any resource to learn C? Yeah, there's lots of them. So I've got some stuff on my YouTube channel, but also I found this book pretty helpful. This is Sam's Teach Yourself C in 24 Hours. Now this is 24, not like you can learn it overnight, right? But like 24 hours cumulative, you would learn it, right? I found this easy when I was first learning C. That was a pretty good book. yeah, there's lots of tutorials and stuff online, and there's YouTube series on it. My YouTube series on it isn't complete. It's something I want to work on, but the engine sort of takes priority, right? So you could definitely start with my series, and it'll give you like the the sort of high level view of it, as well as like how bits and stuff work, and the general like computer sciencey stuff. It gives a little bit of an introduction to that too. And then you can just kind of, search for things as you run into them. And just keep, the biggest thing I would say is just keep writing C code, right? And every time you run into an issue, learn how to look those issues up and solve them, and just make sure that you don't get stuck in like a tutorial hell, right? Where all you're looking at is tutorials, versus actually looking things up for yourself, right? Because that can definitely hamper your progress. So I would say the best thing you can do is, like, once you get the basics down, is to just write more code. That's really how you get good at it. All right, so let's run this. Okay, we have a file handle now, so that's good. We have our test file content. Let's just take a look at this real quick. Oh, why is it? Oh, we have to read all text. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so here is our string read in, right? So it looks like we probably have the whole thing, right? With our new lines and everything. So we know that part works correctly, so I can kill this breakpoint. And we'll go ahead and create the parser. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Okay, so our tokenize, I'm actually going to step into this code just to see that we didn't miss anything, right? So we have a parser, we have the source. We go ahead and clear the array, which should already be clear, but we can technically call tokenize more than once using the same parser, right? So we clear the array just to verify that we're good on that. We get the length of the source, which is 551. That seems relatively correct. And then we start our tokenization, right? So I am going to put a breakpoint. You know what? Actually, I'm going to put a breakpoint in. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. And I'm just going to like skip this and see what it gives me, right? Looks like we might have gotten stuck in a loop somewhere, which is interesting. So let's pause this. Okay, so what did we do here? So as long as ch is not equal to... Oh, I see what we did. We are not changing... We're not changing this. Okay, so we're stuck in a loop there. That's not a big deal. That's easy enough to fix. So let's pull this up. Let's go here. Like I said, this code has literally not been exercised at all. So we're going to run into stupid stuff like that for sure. While... Here we go. So we're going to need this. And we're going to put this here. So basically we were just forgetting to update the current character, right? And that was just getting stuck in a loop. So we'll build that. Acho over on the YouTube side. Good evening. How are you doing? Hope everything's going well. From like your back, how is everything going here? You've made tic-tac-toe already? Yeah, not quite. Our first game is going to be a little more complicated than that. All right. So we've built that. Okay. Did we actually... I'm just going to relaunch. All right. So our tokenized result is true. So we actually didn't like fail at any point, right? So that's good. Let's see what our... Actually, I want to keep that breakpoint there. I can get rid of this one. So our token count is 147. So that's pretty interesting. So now what I want to do is I actually want to take a look at our token count, right? So we're going to put parser tokens over here. Let's clear all of these. We're going to put parser tokens, and then what did it say? It was what, 147? Yeah. So we'll say we have 147 of those, right? And I'm going to put this kind of on one side here, and we're just going to kind of compare our results to what we actually have in the file and see that they line up. Just to kind of get a feel for what all we have. So let's see, let's do this. All right. So we have a token type operator slash. That is interesting. So it's counting this as a slash operator. That guy right there, which is not correct, right? It should be looking at the next token to see if that is a comment or not. So it should have created a slash token there. But let's look at the next one. So the next thing we have is white space, which is saying it's at start position 2 and 3. So it's right at the end of this. It's counting that white space right there. And then it's counting this as an identifier. Okay, so it's not processed this as a comment, basically, is what I'm seeing here. So I think what we need to do, because this is probably mostly going to be wrong until we actually sort that out, let's go ahead and stop this. And let's figure that out, right? All right, so we'll stop that. And let's sort that out. So let's see, we have, where did I put that? Okay, here we go. So if we run into a slash, we push the current token. Look ahead to see if another slash follows. If so, the rest of the line is a comment, skip forward. Okay, so apparently we fell into this category for some reason. So if C+1 is a slash, you know what? Let's actually debug into that, because I want to see why it's detecting that as a slash, because that doesn't seem right to me. So we'll go here. What line is it? Like 250. So like right here. We should, I guess we can push a, and we'll run this. Okay. And let's see, C+1 is going to be position 1, right? So that should be this guy. So if that's equal to a slash, then we say we go to the rest of the we go to the end line at end of the line, right? So we basically say while the character is not equal to a new line and not equal to end of file, essentially. And then let me see, we do -1 here. Why did we do that? So and why is this C+2? I'm trying to think what my logic was there, because this is technically pulling the rest of that as as that, right? So we get to the end here. Skip one character before the new line, so the new line gets processed. Yeah, this doesn't seem correct to me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure what I was thinking here. Like, for some reason I'm thinking that's supposed to be a minus equals 1, and I might have just typed equals minus 1. I think that's what it is, actually. I think that's supposed to be minus equals 1, and I just typed it backwards. So I'm like, why would I otherwise have just, like, completely nuked it, right? I think that's what it's supposed to be. I think probably what happened was I typed this, and then when it source formatted, it became that. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Okay. So do this. And we'll do this again. All right, so we'll tokenize. It should bring us to the end of the line, which is like position 30. More or less looks correct. And then we skip to the end of the line. And then we reset the token, right? So essentially our first token should be a new line token, essentially. So I'm going to undo this breakpoint because I think that's fixed now. Yep, there we go. So our first token is a new line, which is what I would expect, right? Because we're completely skipping comments. I'm not tokenizing those. Even though I created a token type comment, I don't think I'm going to save it, right? Because that's just another thing that we have to sort of deal with when we're actually parsing the file. So I've skipped that. We have a new line. And then we have an identifier, which is saying it's basically 10 characters long, which that is. And then we have white space, and then we have an operator equal, and then we have another white space. Then we have a curly brace open. Then a new line, right? So that whole line looks correct. And then we have white space. And then we have an identifier. And then the operator dot. That's interesting. Okay. So it looks like how did we get there? So new line, white space. So that would make sense, right? This would be tokenized as white space, but this should be a comment should have gotten skipped. Right, and it's treating that as an identifier, which is really weird. Strings are broken. Yeah, for sure strings are broken. Yeah. Because I see like a dot operator in there, for example. So yeah, strings are definitely busted. How's it going, by the way, TCAT? Good to see you. C++2 is to skip the double slash, yeah. Why is CM checked if it's greater than 0 when you set CM to -1? Just to make sure that we're not like negative, is what I was thinking there. Yeah. Is the slash check not happening if it's not right at the start of the line? That's what I'm wondering, right? It's going to be something like that, I think. So we are currently, so the white space here. Wait a minute, that's not the right one. So here's the new line, here's the white space immediately. Wait, let me drag this down so you guys can see it. So we have the new line and then the white space directly after that, which should be 4 characters, and it is. So it seems like when we transition from this white space state to looking to see if the slash is an operator or if it's a comment is what's wrong. So do we have... So we say we push the current token. Oh, we didn't reset the current token. We didn't reset the token state. That's why. We didn't do that. I'll bet that's it. All right, so let me... That might be part of it. So let's do this, tokenize, and then we should have... Oops, go away. So we have identifier, white space, equal, white space, curly brace, open, new line. All right, that still works correctly. And then we have white space, and then the next thing is an identifier. So the white space is our 4 characters, but we're still on identifier here, which is very strange. So why, for some reason, it's not switching. It's not switching to the correct mode, I guess, more or less. All this should do, though, is really just skip all of this, right? We shouldn't actually be pushing anything of any kind. I'm trying to think why we're not actually hitting this case. So if I think, let me pull this up and I'm going to pull this up in Notepad++, right? So I could just see. Give me a second just to do that. All right, so we essentially are at this point, which is saying position 54. Oh, you know what? This is counting carriage returns and line feeds. I wonder if I can turn that crap off somehow. I'm not sure. So our positional is correct there. It's just once we get to that point, it's not changing state correctly. So I'm gonna have to debug that, I guess, to figure out why. So let's go here. And I guess anytime I find a slash, I'm just gonna do that and see what the... So C in this case is 0, so that's the very first one, right? And then the next one that it finds, push current token, which there isn't a current token, so that's fine. C in this case is going to be 51. Okay, so that's this guy. So our push current token is not going to do anything because we don't actually have a current token, as far as I'm aware. Actually, I should probably verify that. That might actually not be correct. No, it's a white space. Okay, so that's correct. So it pushes the white space token. We reset the token mode. We skip to the end of the line. We increment C by that much. And then we reset this again, which I guess is not really necessary. Okay. And then break. Oh, and then we advance by one more. Trying to think, we should probably continue instead of advance. So when we do this, we should be continuing. That might be what's throwing things off. Because I think what might be happening is it hits. It's thinking this is an identifier, essentially, I think is what's happening. Let's see. Let me read the 47 to 51. Is that inclusive? Yes. Let me see. Yeah, if I add source C to the, yeah, I suppose I could do that too. Yeah. I am though. Oops, let's do this. All right. Right, so that's a slash, which is this guy. So we should, I think the issue was that we were continuing here instead of, or we were not continuing rather. So our next character should be a slash. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right either. C plus CM. Shouldn't it be, well, CH is not equal to new line or not equal. Oh my gosh, you're right. That's completely wrong. Yep. Yeah. That's completely wrong. Yeah, it should be and CH is not equal to this. Not sure what I was thinking there. Yep. Thank you for the follow, Big Bands. Let's see. Just want to say beautiful coding comments. I appreciate that. It's the code is wrong at this point, but I guess it looks good, right? Counts for something. It is name not supposed to be an identifier. So this is an identifier here, yes. So this is an identifier, this is an equals operator, and then this should be tokenized as a string. Yeah. So, yeah, identifier, white space, operator, white space, open bracket, new line is here. Then all this should be white space. And then this should be a comment, so it should get skipped. And then we should have a second white space, and then we should have identifier, is what we're looking for. So I'm thinking it's just this code here that hasn't really been exercised yet, which is probably just wrong. All right, so if we move that moves us forward the amount we need to move. So the next letter here is, or the next character here is, it's saying N. Which is going to be wrong, because it's that. So I guess we don't need the comment -1, or the CM -1 now. Because we're continuing here and we're not doing the advance down here at the bottom. That's actually wrong now. Off-topic question. If you were to do the editor, communicate with the game, same machine or over LAN, what protocol would you use? Sockets, pipes, RPC? That's a good question. I haven't thought about that, actually. You're redesigning your editor game integration because you also want to be able to edit while the game is on Xbox, for example. I'd probably use, I guess sockets would probably be the way I'd do that, honestly. If I had to. But I would probably not make the local editor work that way. Because that's just like a whole layer of complexity that you don't frankly need unless you're doing something like that, right? You don't need that, like, we don't need ads, but we do need ads, I guess, right? We have ads whether or not we need them. So I'm just going to pause real quick, pause the stream for ads while those run, and hydrate. Let's see. I see the YouTube questions over there, so I'll answer those as soon as the ad break is over. That way nobody misses anything, right? So yeah, I will get to those. I see you guys over there. I will answer those in just a second. Tammin, your question turned into a segue. Yeah, I get it. I get that. And because I'm not streaming at night, I can actually have coffee on the stream now. So that's always nice. Almost done with ads. Got about 10 seconds left on ads. Ish. All right, and ads are dead. So thank you guys for sticking around with that. So I have a couple of questions over on the YouTube side. What features do I wish C and Vulkan had? I do wish C had the ability to hash strings at compile time. That would be nice. C++ has that, C doesn't. So if I were to switch over to C++, it'd probably be for that feature alone, honestly. Not familiar with this parser module. What is the purpose? I see you're feeding it a text file, but in game development, setting using kohi, what would this tool be used for? So this particular file right here is our scene format, our new scene format, right? And I've got some extra stuff in here just to kind of test variable types, but this is what our scene is basically going to look like, right? So we can have a hierarchy of different objects with different attachments and child objects and things like that. And so this parser is to parse this. Right now we're only using it for scenes, but I can see that this format is probably also going to be used for other things, useful for other things rather. And so it'll be used for that. That being said, this particular format is only going to be used for editing games. We're also going to have a binary version of scene files. So essentially what will happen is this will get read in, and then it will get serialized and output to a binary format, which will be much faster to load. And from there, we can use that for our runtime, right? But this will serve as an in-between that the editor will be able to use, or you can just come in here and tweak things by hand if you want. And it just makes it very easy to work with. So that's kind of the idea behind this. It's not scripting yet. This is really just a storage format at the moment. Let's see. Why not use YAML or something else off the shelf? Is this for learning? So yeah. So we try to not use a lot of external libraries just because it's a learning exercise. So we're going through the process of like debugging this stuff on stream just as a learning exercise, right? We may eventually, if we do add an official scripting language like Lua or something like that, we'll probably use library for that. But it'll be an external plugin. It won't be part of the engine core. So as far as the engine core goes, we don't want to really use libraries unless we absolutely have to for something. So that's kind of the goal there. Okay. So let's see. Did I make I made that change already, so I think we should be good to test this again. All right, so we'll tokenize this, and we'll come down here. And so now we should be at the first slash, right? Or no, we actually should have parsed the new line token already. Okay. So we'll do this again. Okay, so let's see what this gave us. I just kind of skipped through it just to kind of see if it's going to work. All right, so this is kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at the first few lines here. So we have new line, which is at position 31. So I'm going to assume that's here. And then we have an identifier, white space, operator equal, white space, curly brace open, new line, white space. We're still getting an identifier here. Wait a minute, though. Actually, I think this is valid. I think. Let's see. So we got white space from 47 to 51. We should have had another white space before here. But I'm wondering if it's like skipped. So 122 to 125. Let's see. So this, that's position 80. What is at that position? Let's see what this is. So we have start 122 to 125. So I guess we'll do I hate that the resize on Windows is like freaking pixel wide, which really sucks on a 4K monitor. I miss it all the time. Okay, so we're also going to do test file content. What was it, 141? Is this one here? Oh, 122. I don't know where I got 141 from. So that's T. What? Okay, let's debug this a little bit more thoroughly this time around. Okay, so this is the first slash that we're running into, which is at position 0. So this checks the next one to see if it's a slash as well. It is, and then it proceeds to the end of the line, which makes sense. So CM is 31, so position 31. Oops, let me get rid of this one. I want source 31. Actually, just get rid of that, right? So 31 is the new line, so that is correct, right? So it does the new line. Which is here, so it pushes the new token for that. That makes sense. The advance on that will be 1, so that makes sense. The next code point is let's see. Did it not move past that? Switch code point. What is this 112? P. Okay, so that makes sense, actually. So it's the beginning of a identifier. So we start processing the identifier. So that actually does make sense. Okay, so I think with this one, we should be good to just skip that, right? Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look for is white space, I guess. Right, so let's do a breakpoint on white space, I guess. Because I have a feeling it's not switching from that to the comment correctly. So we'll use... Oh, you know what? This might be a... Is this saved as tabs or spaces? This is spaces, so there should be 4 of them. Okay, that is correct. Okay, so let's put a breakpoint here. So if it hits any of those, right, we have a space. So our current mode is defining identifier right now. So this should push the current token, set the mode to white space, set the start and the end, right? So that makes sense. So next loop, we should already be in mode white space. What? That doesn't seem right. Maybe you should store the offset pointer and the tokens in the debug mode. It makes it way easier to debug. Yeah, I might have to do that. You wonder if the string is getting cut off because the watch window is very small, or if VS Code's watch window just sucks. Yeah, that's also possible. Entirely possible. Let's see. Where's the game on the roadmap? What do you want to work on before starting the game? So there's a few more things that we have to complete, but not much, right? This was kind of a big requirement, is to get this working. Because we need to have some way to represent scenes. I don't need the editor for it, I just need this. Probably for a basic game, we're not going to need too much more. We might... I was thinking about doing particles before that, but we might not even get to that, right? You think it was just too small because the source right now would show the whole thing? Yeah. It might be, yeah. All right, let me think. Why did we hit this? Right, because the mode is unknown. I shouldn't have skipped forward is what happened there. I'm going to redo it again. All right, so we know that this first sort of comment bit works, right? At the very beginning of the file. We know that that works. Let's see. C at this point is position 42, which is what? Probably this. I'm guessing. Yeah. This says 45 because it's counting both the carriage return and line feed. So if you subtract that out, it actually does make sense. So we're basically here. So we're switching from defining identifier to a white space token. All right, so we push that. And then get the next code point. So the next code point is the equal sign. So we get the equals token. That makes sense. Let's actually put a breakpoint here so I can just skip past it. So again, we're going to wind up in white space. So our mode is not currently white space, it's unknown. Which makes sense. Okay. So we create another white space token. And then we have an open token, so that makes sense. Then we have a new line token. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have... What is the current token mode here? We're not resetting it here. I wonder if that's it. No, it's already, it doesn't need to be reset. It's already unknown. Okay, so that's not it. All right, so we're in unknown mode, which makes sense. We hit a white space. So we switch to white space, start a white space token, move on to the next character, right? So we should be like here. I think this portion of it works correctly, right? We just tack onto the white space token. Tack onto the white space token. One more time, we should tack onto the white space token. Then we hit a slash. So we push the current token, which makes sense. We reset the token in mode. Then we say, okay, is the next token a slash? So we would want, let me do this actually. Right, so that's also a slash, which makes sense. So we skip past those two slashes, go all the way to the end of the line, increment that, and boot out of it. So it's saying the next character's in H. In H? Where the hell is it getting an H from? And C is 122. Where is 122? Like that's... It's like here somewhere or something. Why did it skip so far? I don't understand why it wound up there. So TH. Yeah. It's like here. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. How come I don't use something like mvim.dat for debugging inside NeoVim? I have tried it before. I had problems with data just not showing up sometimes. Like as I was stepping through, especially if I stepped through too quickly, it would just not show any data. And it got really annoying. It just felt kind of clunky to work with. I don't see anything in here that seems off. But it's like it kept going here and just kind of kept processing for some reason. We never hit a new line token at the end of this. Which doesn't make any sense because we should have definitely hit a new line here. Which would be, you know, what? Position 70 probably. It's like we just blew right past that. Why would that only work from... So we say C+2 to get past the double slash. I did a plus equals on CM. Oh, shoot, you're right. It's right in front of my freaking dingus face. Should be equal CM, right? Because CM is equal to C. Thank you. Good call. I'm sitting there looking at the code and I'm like, what is it? It's one of the great things about streaming live, right? Is you run into stupid problems and people can point it out for you. All right. So I'm actually going to kill some of these breakpoints because I have a suspicion that's probably going to fix a lot. So I'm just going to let it rip. And see what the tokens look like. I'll bet that was the cause of like a lot of bugs actually. So we have new line, which means it basically skipped all the way to here. So we have new line, identifier, white space, operator equal, white space again, curly brace open, new line. Let me expand this a little bit. That's kind of small. I can't get rid of this maybe. There we go. Okay. Curly brace open, new line, white space, which is 4 characters. And then we have new line, which is further down than that, 71. Yeah, okay, so it did skip the comment there. Then we have another white space, 72 to 76, which is another 4. Then we have an identifier. That's going to be the name. White space equals. And then we have white space. And then we have a string literal. Start end 84 to 94. That seems okay on the surface. White space after that. And then a new line because it skips the comment. And then we have, let's see. Where were we? Here we go. New line. Then white space, then identifier, then white space, then operator. Then white space, then another string literal. And then a new line after that. And then we have a curly brace close, a new line, and then an identifier. White space, operator equal, white space, bracket open, new line. I think we might be good on our tokenizer, actually. The only other thing that I have questions about is a little further down, like these numerics and stuff. So let's see, white space, curly brace open, new line, white space, identifier, white space, operator equal, white space, string literal, new line, white space, wait a minute, string literal here, new line, white space, identifier. Yeah, okay, that does make sense. White space equal white space, bracket open, new line, white space, curly brace open. Okay, new line, white space, identifier. Right, and this is a sort of a non-space check, so we should have identifier equal and then string literal immediately after that. That looks good. It did, I think, skip the quote, which is what we want. We don't actually want to save the quotes as part of the token. And then new line, and then white space identifier. This one's spaced out again, so we should have white space, operator equal, string literal, and then new line, white space, curly brace close, new line, white space, bracket close. Okay, so that puts us here. New line, white space, identifier, white space, operator equal, which looks correct. White space, numeric literal, operator dot. Perfect. Okay, so pick that up. New line after that. I'm going to have to like shrink this window, I guess. Freaking resize again. There we go. Okay. All right, so new line, white space, identifier, white space, operator equal, white space, bracket open. Okay, I think we might be good. It seems to open and close everything as expected. We do have some marked here as unknowns, but I think the size of the tokens would have changed actually. So that actually kind of makes sense because our token count now is actually 114, and I think we're previewing 147. So the last thing that we should see is like this this stuff down here, like the foo equals 32, which should be, let's find the last new line. So identifier, white space, operator equal, white space, new line. That's interesting. So that should not be, new line should not be the last one. Should be a numeric literal, then new line. Interesting that it got all the way to the end of the file before we actually found an issue. So, yeah. Oh, just open the file in VS Code, yeah. Why do things the easy way when you can do them the hard way, though? You know? Ruche dropping the D's nuts. I love it. Yeah, I did put some new emotes in there, by the way, for you guys on Twitch. I'm going to try and see what I can do about that over on the YouTube side as well. But yeah, I did put some new emotes and new point redeems, FYI. Let's see. Kind of came into the stream in the middle of the problem you're trying to debug. Could you possibly recap the problem so far? Yeah, so all we're doing is we're debugging our tokenizer at the moment. So we've actually made some decent progress and got past some stupid issues that I put in there. The only thing that we ran into is it looks like everything is correct except for this last line for some reason. And that might be because something in our tokenizer is incorrect, but basically what this should have is it should be identifier, white space, operator equal, white space, and then it should be numeric literal, and then end of file. And for some reason, it did a new line here. So I'm not 100% sure why that's happened. I just have to look into that. But yeah, that's basically the only issue remaining, I think. I'm trying to think why that would be. So I guess So I guess let's change this view to like 120, right? I think that's actually, let's go to like one. Yeah, let's do 120 because we don't have 120 tokens, but at least it'll be. Okay, so instead of, I guess I could set up a breakpoint to break on ads. We are basically, we'd like to break the stream on, or pause the stream whenever ads come up so that nobody misses any content. And so that is what we're doing now. It's generally 90 seconds, once every 30 minutes. And then we come right back, right? So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and hydrate. You guys should do the same. And I guess we're gonna have to re-debug this, right? Let's do, while we're waiting on ads. Ads are almost done. All right. Ads are dead. Cool. All right. So just as a quick recap for that, we like to pause the stream. Once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds, we're served ads on Twitch. So I just pause the stream across the board so that nobody misses anything. Because nothing sucks on a programming stream more than having a full screen ad thing come up and then you can't see or hear what's going on, right? So I like to just pause that so that nobody misses any content. And then I put a timer on the screen during that pause so you guys know exactly how long that pause is for. So if you want to get up and go get some water to hydrate during that or whatever, you know exactly how long you've got, right? Okay. Let's see. Was actually laughing at some streamers about the hydrate thing until I discovered 80% of my headaches are for not drinking water for 10 hours. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people undervalue the being hydrated, or at least, trying to drink something, right? Ideally water. I drink coffee as well, which kind of has the opposite effect, but yeah, hydration's super important and it will give you a headache. I know if I get too dehydrated, I get a nasty headache too. So yeah, it's actually super important. It's also very important when you're talking a lot. All right, so what we need to determine is why this last line is not operating as expected. So let me see. How can I very easily determine how, let's see, 3 selected. I'm just trying to figure out like what position I should break at, because maybe I could just do a breakpoint at a certain position, like a conditional breakpoint or something. 564. But I think this is also determining, like, it's using carriage return line feeds, so I'd have to divide the end lines in half on that. So let's call that 530, I guess. We could break around line 530. So let's do... I guess I can do, I'll put conditional breakpoint here. And I'll say C is greater than, well, yeah, I'll say C is greater than or equal to 530. That should work. All right, so we'll go ahead and restart this. And we'll run this. Okay, and so our code point, actually, can I move? Let's just disable that one for now. I want to actually recreate this. I can't put it lower. All right, I guess I'll keep it. I was gonna do one a little bit lower, but I guess this will have to work. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay. So our code point in this case is 10, which is a new line. So that's, I think, going to be the new line here. So we're just going to handle that. And then the next code point is going to be a white space. .534. I might have done it a little bit sooner than I needed to, actually. I guess I could actually set a breakpoint on this guy, because I don't have that many of those tokens throughout here. Let me actually do that. So I'm going to disable this guy and just run until I hit that one. So that will give me, should get me to like here, right? Or actually, maybe I should even do this guy. Here. All right. So here's a new line. Okay. So we have that, and then we'll do a new line after that. All right, and then our next code point is, let me get rid of this, is F. So that is going to be this foo, right? So we know there that that's part of an identifier. So we'll go ahead and skip through that. The next thing should be white space, right? Because we have a single space here. And then we should have an equals and then another white space. And then it's what comes after that that's confusing. So here's our equals. So we push that token. And then here's another white space. All right, and now this is where things went a little bit weird. So our current code point as of this is 3, which makes sense, right? That's this guy. So we'll say now, tokenize mode numeric literal. So we push the current token, which would have been a white space token. Then we set the mode to numeric literal. We start the numeric literal. Oh, I think I know what's happening, actually. I think I know what it is. All right, so we go to... I think I know exactly what it is, actually. So we tack on to that numeric literal, right? So that's going to be this 2, right? And then we're going to hit our end of file, I think. Or actually, do we have an empty line here? We might have. Let's see. So our next code point is a new line, but we're not pushing the current token that's sitting there, right? So that's going to be what the problem is, I think. So we know that we need to fix that. Let's actually just go ahead and push the new line token. And then we also don't have something. I think our loop actually quits because we've hit the character length. So we're not actually going to do the end of file token. So we need to tack that on at the end. Okay, so there's two different things here. Figured it out. All right, so when we are doing when we come across a new line, we need to make sure to push whatever token is currently there to there, right? And then, and if this is like a unknown token or we don't have something to push, it won't push it. And then we also need to reset the token in mode to ensure that we're not like tacking on to something else that we shouldn't be tacking onto, right? Because we create this and push it right away. So we should be pushing the current token before, pushing the new line token, then resetting. And then our loop here is terminating because we've reached the end of the string, which does not include the null terminator, which means we need to potentially also push current token, right? At the end here. And then we also need to create and push a end of file token, right? So let's just do this. Okay. And then in this case, oh, I think C is local, isn't it? It is, but we can use character length for that. So we'll say, instead of C, we'll say char length, and then char length plus 1, right? So we'll push a end of file token, and then we're good. Dehydration can make you hallucinate. Yeah, it can. It's really bad. Actually, I read something interesting, and I can't remember where, but I read something interesting yesterday or today, that one of the reasons that you're super sleepy and have no energy when you first wake up in the morning is because of lack of hydration. So apparently if you like slam a whole bunch of water first thing in the morning, it gives you energy in a little bit. So I'm going to actually start trying that when I get up. I'm just going to slam a bunch of water in the morning and see what happens. Be interesting to see if that works and to see how effective it is versus coffee. Okay. So let's run this. All right, so we're going to tokenize the results. We're going to get rid of these breakpoints. All right, so our token count is 116. That makes sense. And we'll take a look at what our end tokens are. So we'll go all the way down here. And so we can compare this with our file here. So we have, at the end here, we have, let's start actually at our bracket close, right? So our bracket close is this guy. Then we have a new line, an identifier, which is the foo, which is 3 characters, the white space, which is just a single character, the operator equal, then we have another white space, then we have a numeric literal, which is 2 characters. Wait. What? Yes, 2 characters. Okay. And then we have a new line after that. which is this guy here. And then we have end of file, which is the end of the file, which is right there. So, tokenization complete. I think we are good on tokenization. So that's step 1 done, which is awesome. In fact, what I am going to do at this point is I am actually going to commit this. So we'll say get status and get add, get commit. Updated terrain resource logic. Also, we'll say tokenization. Yeah, let's say case and tokenization. Working as expected. We'll write some more unit tests around that. That was mostly just a driver at the moment. And I'm going to push this so that you guys actually have a working copy of it, right? So that's half of our parsing done, right? We've tokenized this file. And now what we need to do is actually parse through those tokens, right? So that's the second half here, this case and token or case and parser parse, right? And so what this does is loop through all the tokens we've generated and verifies that they're valid and attempts to build a case and tree out of this. So just as a quick refresher as to what that is, it is essentially a list of case and objects. So those case and objects can have properties, case and properties, right? Each object also has a type. So an object is either an object or an array, right? And so an object is essentially this block here, right? So there's basically a root object to which these properties belong. And then those properties can have a value of an array, a value of an object, or a value of like a string, number, Boolean, etc. And so we have objects that can have types. Those properties also have property types, which are one of these things, right? So we have unknown, which we might wind up doing like an undefined or null. I haven't thought of a use case for that yet, but maybe we'll have one. So I have a to-do in there to think about that. So it can be a number, a string, an object, an array, or a Boolean, right? And so they can have, properties have a type, they can also have a name, and then they have a value. So the value here is just a union. So it can either be a signed 64-bit integer, a float, a string, or an object, right? And so that's what the value is, and then that basically just can cascade downward. So we're going to try and build the tree now out of the token list that we have. And once we do that, we'll actually be able to build some functions where we can actually construct a tree from our various scene components and things like that, and actually build out a tree that gets serialized down to one of these KSIN files. And that's kind of the idea that we're rolling with here, right? Let's see. You would drink water first thing in the morning, but you get full. Yeah, I mean, that can reduce the amount of stuff you eat in the morning too, right? So maybe it's not a bad thing. I read somewhere that to not mess up your circadian rhythm, you should drink coffee 1.5 hours after you wake up. See, I can't function without my coffee first thing in the morning, so that would be hard for me. But maybe I am screwing myself by doing that. Villager, hello. How's it going? I've been struggling with getting my transformation matrices actually going into the shader correctly. Should I be passing them into push constants like I am now, or is there a better way? So your model matrix, essentially, that's what we're doing is push constants for now. When we go to batched rendering that's going to work a little bit differently. But if you're just doing like a basic rendering pipeline, yeah, push constants should be fine. What you do is drink 30 ounces or so of water through the day at work, then 2 cups when you get home in the morning. You could drink 1 cup, but more is too much. Yeah, that's fair. And that's probably not a bad amount. I probably don't drink that much, and I should, right? Docklock, how's it going, bud? Good to see you. Why do you tokenize white space? I suppose I don't need to, but there are... Actually, I do need to. So, because I got thinking about something. So, specifically when we're talking about negatives, right? There's if we ever extend this to support subtraction operators, right? You might have something like 1.0 or maybe 10 minus 2.0, right? But then you can also have 10 minus negative 2.0, right? So what makes the difference between the minus sign here and the minus sign here? Well, we can do a backwards and forwards check to see what is around these, right? So if we take a look at this and we say, okay, what comes directly after this is either a numeric literal or a decimal point, then we know that this is negating the token of the numeric literal that comes after it, right? Versus if it's surrounded in white space or something else, maybe there's an identifier on this side or something like that, we can determine, okay, because this is split apart of the, from whatever is around it, it's not a negation, it's actually a subtraction operator, right? So I tokenize that just to kind of catch things like that, so that in our grammar rules, when we actually parse that out, we can say, is this a subtraction operator or is it a negative, right? Because technically some languages also allow you to do this, right? To mark it as positive. And so that was the main reason for doing it, right? But also, because you could have something like this too. So just judging on what's around it, right? Like this, we've decided is not going to be valid for our language, right? If we have just this, like that's not valid. It has to be right next to it. So I hope that makes sense. Doing push constants for object transforms, then using separate descriptors per material and global descriptors for the whole scene. Yeah, Robert, that's exactly what we do. And welcome, by the way, first time chat. That's exactly how we have it set up currently. So we have our global and what we call instance uniforms. And then our local uniforms are basically push constants. So that's pretty much the setup that we have here. Yep. Could you not just assume that a negative is subtracting a negative value and not rely on white space? No, because theoretically, you could also have, if we do wind up using this as a scripting language, right, you could also have this, which is a decrement operator, which is completely different, right? So yeah, you definitely can't make that assumption. So I'm just trying to think ahead a little bit in terms of how we want to do it. And that's the only reason that I tokenize white space. We actually have the ability to tokenize comments too. I don't right now, but theoretically we could if we wanted to. And the other thing theoretically that this could do is if we have our own highlighting rules, where maybe we can view this in the editor, that would allow us, the tokenization of that stuff would allow us to highlight things differently as well. Negative would be weird if it wasn't a decrement. Yeah, but how do we determine that on the back end without having some rules in place, right? Why would you, like, even in C, you can't do this, right? That would be weird. You've got to have spaces in between it, right? You have to have that, otherwise it's not going to work. Our very own tree sitter, yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to think about like all the use cases that we could have, and I'm just like, well, we're tokenizing stuff anyways. There's literally no reason to not tokenize it. Like it makes things a little bit noisier, but we can use it for some validation of stuff. So I hope that makes sense. All right. So the next thing, actually, I should probably undo my changes here. Oh, you know what? That's actually, I didn't test that though. I should probably test that to make sure that that works. Let's make this a little easier on ourselves though. Let's actually put a property up here. And we'll say that this is equal to, and right, we're just not going to put any spaces around this, 0.2. And let's see how that gets tokenized, right? Because this should be tokenized as just a minus, then we should have a dot operator, then we should have a numeric literal for one character. So let's go ahead and run this really quickly. And so the first thing that we get is a new line, which makes sense because we're not tokenizing comments, right? So it picks up the new line at the end of this first. Then we have an identifier, which takes 9 characters, so that looks correct. Then we have an equals, then we have a minus, a dot, and a numeric literal. So that does pick up that stuff as well. I just hadn't thought to test that, right? Okay, so that works. That's good. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is probably write into our test. And I guess I'll just do it here, right? I'll just do this all in kind of one test for now, and then we'll write some actual tests later for this stuff. So we know the tokenization works. Now we're going to attempt to parse the tokens, right? So we're going to say B8 parse result equals kson parser parse. We're going to take the address of the parser. We have not created a tree yet, so let's actually do that. We'll say kson tree, right? And we'll just pass we'll pass the address of tree. And then we'll do expect to be true. Parse result. All right. So this should parse our grammar rules. And what I'm going to do is probably just run this through like brute force at first. Just let it run and see what kind of results it gives us. It's probably going to be wrong because we haven't exercised this portion of the code either. But that's okay. We'll work our way through it and figure it out. So we know this stuff works. So we're going to set a breakpoint here and run and see how it blows up. Okay. So the fact that it's still running tells me it's probably stuck in a loop somewhere, which would be here. So let's see, our current token is the new line, which is at the very beginning of the file. So I'm guessing I'm probably just not setting like current token or something. So let's step through this. The way that this is working is it basically just loops through token by token. So our token type is new line. Why did that get? So if expect numeric is false, then we don't do that. So we should be. We don't. I bet we don't set the current token to the next token. anywhere, probably. In fact, I'm pretty confident that's what the issue is. So let's go here. Nope, we don't. Okay, so I guess what we can do is current token is equal to, actually, don't we have ads? We do, in fact, have ads. So I'll pause the stream for ads. Hydrate really quickly. So TCAP, I will answer that question in a second because that's actually a really good point. So we've got about 45 seconds left on ads, and then we'll continue. So we just like to make sure that the stream's paused so that nobody misses any content. We get served Twitch ads once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds. And so I just like to pause the stream so that nobody misses any content. Maybe give my voice a break. All right, ads are dead. We are back. So we got a couple questions over here. So TCAP, to answer your question, so you wouldn't want to allow something like, oh wait, hold on, I think I missed. So you wouldn't want to allow something like int x equals space negative space 2, only int x equals space negative 2. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, we don't want to necessarily allow negation with a space in between it. It's just kind of a rule we're setting down. Does that mean if you see a minus minus, you store 2 individual tokens as opposed to 1? Yeah, so right now that is what it's going to do because I just haven't written in the support for that additional token type. When we do have like actual logic built into this, I will tokenize that as one thing. But yeah, you're right. For right now, it would tokenize that way. Any specific reason for not using YAML or JSON? You just wanted to write your own thing? Pretty much. Yep. Pretty much. Also, I didn't want to necessarily bring in like an external library to do that kind of thing because like part of the point of this series is to write things from scratch. Wherever we can. There are things that don't necessarily make sense to write from scratch, but I figured a parser and a tokenizer would be an interesting thing to cover. So that's why we're doing it, more or less. And also our grammar rules are a little bit different than JSON, right? So eventually I want to extend this to be able to handle different types of data aside from the ones that JSON supports, right? So for right now, for example, an X form just takes this string and then converts it, but eventually I want to be able to do this unquoted, right? Where we say, if we have a series of 10 numbers in a row, consider that a transform and treat it as its own type of data. That kind of thing. We eventually want to have our own rules. If you don't want negative space number, then you do need to store white space tokens. Exactly. Seems kind of annoying, yes, but it makes it really easy for me to parse it on the back end, right? And also, you can't really even do that. Like, if you try to do that, the example I always use is in here, if you have something, right? You can't do that in JSON, right? You have to have it as -5, right? And so that's kind of what I'm using as my example, right? I think this is bleating because I didn't put it like that, right? So that's an error in JSON. So that's just what I'm thinking is why, why we're just going to kind of do the same thing. Let's see. Gonna lurk for a while. You've got your own code to write. Fair enough. Thank you for the lurk. I appreciate it. All right. So I guess we need to... Where were we? This was basically not going through and setting the current token. So I could have swore we were doing this, but nope. Yeah, we're not moving forward in the list. That's why. So I think we're doing current token. We're just doing this. So I need to increase the index on that and then do this. Okay. So we'll do that down here. Say index ++. And then current token is that. So I'll clear the highlight. Build. Didn't realize this was a full scripting language. Should read Twitch descriptions more. Yeah, I mean, this isn't a full scripting language yet. Right now, it's really just a storage format, but I'm thinking it might become one. So I'm trying to kind of think about that and prepare for it in case it does become one, if that makes sense. All right, so let's go back to our parser tests and run this. All right, looks like we have a string length that's not working properly, so let's see why. Oh, we're overflowing this big time. What are we... So token start, token end, minus token start. Why is that failing? Shouldn't be. Sherlock Holmes, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Why? Start and length. I mean, that seems... Oh. That's why. That might be why. Parser file content. Never gets set. I thought that gets set during... I thought we set that up here when we tokenize, don't we? Do we not? String length. We don't set it. What a dingus. Okay, let's do that. I think the best way to do this is actually to take a copy of the source. So that way we don't have to worry about the life cycle of it. So we're going to say if, we'll say if parser file content. Then we're going to do a string free on that. Parser file content. And then we'll do parser file content equals string duplicate source. Right? Oh, this is bleating about the constant. I probably should fix that one of these days. But since we're destroying it here, it doesn't really matter. Okay. So let's run this again. All right, parse result is false, so we failed somewhere. Expected identifier before assignment operator. Position 41. Okay. So why has that? We know our token order is correct, right? So what did our tree get set up with? We have an object properties is our test prop. That's that. Okay. So let me actually, we don't need these anymore. Let's do tree. So we have one root object. The property of that is going to be test property. Right, so the name is correct. And then we were parsing its value, and it's bleating about expected identifier before assignment operator. So I'm thinking probably just got something out of order with my checks here. So let's put a breakpoint here. And we'll run this again. So we've run across a equal operator, and we're going to say get last non-white space token. So if we go into that, our current index is 2. So we say as long as the current index is greater than 0, and the token type is of type white space, then we move backwards, right? So we do that. Oh, we're immediately taking the current index here and not subtracting it first, and that's why. Right, we should be starting on the previous token. We're starting on the current token, which immediately fails this. That's why. Okay. So that's a simple enough fix. So we'll do beyond this one. So get last non-white space token. We should probably also, let's convert this to an I32. Because we're doing a subtraction here. Technically speaking, we could wind up in the negative. Actually, no. We could literally just check to say if current index equals 0, then we don't have a previous one, right? So we can just return 0. Otherwise, this should be current index minus 1. Okay, so that'll check for the white space, decrement that, and then check again. We should be good. This should probably also be, I feel like that's not going to be right, but let's try that. Any reason to not ignore white space? I don't think so. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing by saying get last non-white space token, right? We're essentially ignoring the white space tokens. Okay. So in this case, our token should now be, wait, why is it, what? Current index minus 1. So that's tokens at index 1. Let's see what this list is. Parser. I'm going to need to change this to a pointer. Operator. So we have new line identifier. Wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. So we've run into this. We say our index here is 2. Thank you for the follow, by the way. I should say the subscription over on the YouTube side. Appreciate that. Let's see. What are you making a parser for? Scripting? So it's for a storage format, right? So we're basically, this is for our scene, right? So it allows us to have a hierarchical view of objects in the scene. And so we're basically setting up a language for that. This might turn into a scripting language at some point, but it's not currently. I hope that makes sense. All right. Lafriki, thank you for the follow. Could be the Seawood library inserting a new line after a carriage return if the file is open in text mode. No, I haven't seen. I've never actually seen a carriage return come through from opening it in the C library. I've never actually seen that before. Maybe it does, but I've not seen it. It just gives me new lines only, not carriage returns. Also, I find a 1 token look ahead works better than reading the previous token. So when you read the next character and return the current character, at the start of read character, you set current to next and then next to end of file. Yeah, I suppose that is another way of doing it, for sure. Although, at this point, I think if I were to change that, it would break a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Apotham, I see that that automod hold your message, but I see it. You keep fat fingering the Q while typing W and NeoVim. It's getting really annoying. Yeah, I do that all the time. The other one I hit all the time is F1, which is why I'll see the help menu pop up. I keep forgetting to disable it. It's annoying. All right. What do you think about Rust? There might be some new engines built with Rust in the future. I think there will be. I wasn't really a fan of being told how to manage my memory. I like having control over that. So I don't think Rust is for me, but I don't hold it against anybody that uses it, right? But yeah, I didn't, to be fair, I didn't use it for long enough to gain a fully qualified opinion on it. I used it for a little bit and decided I didn't like it and went back to C. Okay. Where was I? So we have the token that it picked up was the token type identifier. I think I need to restart this so I have context. So we've hit an equal. So in this case, oh, right, we don't have a white space here. So we should be an identifier, right? So we return T. Okay, so that should be good. I'm going to let this rip now and see if we get any other errors. Yep, okay. So expected identifier properties. Unexpected identifier properties at position 46. So let's find out why that's a thing. Why is it not expecting an identifier then? Probably because I'm guessing we hit a new line and did not turn that switch on. token type new line. Okay, so there's a couple ways we could go with this. After we hit a new line, generally when we hit a new line, that means we've processed like a value, right? So we could say we expect an identifier, which would cover these cases. We could also say we expect an object, and theoretically, yeah, I think those are the only two actually. So new line, we'll say expect identifier. We'll flip that on. And we'll also say, do we have an expect object? I don't think we do. Well, we'll flip that on as well. I guess we could theoretically also expect an array. Let's go with this first. We'll just say expect identifier is true. And then if we hit open brace token, I don't see anything in here that's going to stop us from doing that, so that should be fine. Let's see, we have ensure identifier, which I think, yeah, if expect identifier, which theoretically, we probably shouldn't run that check there, thinking. Because that's basically going to say, well, now it's expecting an identifier instead of the open curly brace, which is not necessarily always going to be true. So I guess we could say, maybe we look at the last non-white space token and see what it was. And if it was a new line, well, is that going to make any difference though? I'm just going to turn this off for right now. May be needed to verify object starts at correct place. Not 100% sure about that yet. Let's see. First time chat, the freaky. If anything, I desperately hope that Rust and or C# will take over web dev. On the front end or on the back end? I mean, C# is pretty popular on the back end, at least if you're in a Microsoft shop. Ownership is good because you can pass it down or use a reference pointer as an indirect. Yeah, I mean, I get it. But I also heavily leverage, void pointers and things like that, so I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. What was that bleating about? Like, ownership to me is something I just kind of keep in my mind. I don't need the compiler to do it for me. Oh, it's because we're running. And again, that's just kind of a preference, right? But I get it. I get where they're coming from on it. I just think it's a little bit overzealous sometimes. If the auto release is unintentional, then it falls under null checks and auto manual initialization. So it creates unexpected behavior to show there's a problem, triggering a search for the cause. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's unintentional or not. The point is, all of this exists to help you not write a bit of code. It's not worth the confusion. Rust is good for back end and not so much for front end, I should add. I could see that. Probably the back end, but generally speaking, the state of front end scares me. Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you have things out there like node modules, right? Gross. I realize there's alternatives to that, but let's see. So object properties. So push to current property. Property value. Oh, right. Okay. So this was a section I was not sure was going to be correct or not. So essentially, in our properties, right, we can have an integer, a float, a boolean, a string, or an array of subobjects, right? So I guess I have to check this to make sure to see if it needs to be created first. So current property before I go ahead and push to that, right? So curly brace open is going to mean that we're adding a new property for that. So I thought we did that when we created a new property, though. I guess I could just check it, right? So if not current property value O, then current property value O equals the array create, and that's going to be KSON object, right? So it's going to create a array of objects, then we can push to that thing. So that's that. It's Thor's hype train song there. JS should just be removed from web browsers and we should move on with our lives. Yeah. Can you imagine, though, the amount of stuff that would break? That's the problem, right? You'd break the entire internet. And then people that don't understand how the internet really works would basically just burn the world to the ground. Janders, first time chat. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you here. Hope everything's going well. All right. We got some things over here on the YouTube side. So I've seen a game engine written in Zig. Yes. In fact, there is Spiro is actually writing a game engine in Zig on Twitch. So yeah, in fact, I'm going to give him a shout out real quick because Spiro's a good guy. If you guys don't know who he is. He's actually writing a game engine backend in Zig and a game engine front end using the HTML DOM to prove that it can be fast if you know what you're doing. So I'll drop a link here in chat to that. I would suggest you give him a follow. But yeah, it is pretty cool. Zig is actually a language that I'm thinking of looking at some point once it gets past its sort of infancy, right? Am I using makefiles? Yes. We have 2 makefiles that are being used. One for executables and one for libraries, right? And so those are just the 2. I'm probably going to condense these into one. But yeah, for now we're using makefiles. All right, so let's try this again. You're writing a windowing library in Zig? Nice. Welcome, Skarsh, by the way. I enjoyed Zig far more than Rust, but I think Jai is the best modern C++ replacement languages. Yeah, I haven't used Jai yet. I do want to give it a shot at some point, but I think Zig is probably more on the short list for me. You're worried it might not see much adoption as Rust. I mean, that's possible, right? But it's still very, very young. Rust has been around for a while now, whereas Zig really hasn't, right? So we shall see. All right. Expected identifier instead found a closing curly brace. So that is probably the same issue, actually. So we are ensuring identifier here. So this is likely going to be the same issue. So I'm just going to turn that off for right now. And also, this is going to be an issue with, potentially, in fact, let's just do this. I'm going to turn it off for these. We're going to handle that validation separately. Right, so we'll just say verify array ends in a correct place, and then this is going to be array, and then this is going to be ends. Oh, we've had ads for the last 30 seconds, and I missed it somehow. So my timer on the screen's off by 30 seconds. People still think C++ will get replaced. Maybe when quantum PCs come around. Yeah, I mean, C++ isn't going anywhere, right? Neither is C. I mean, a lot of software is still written in that, especially low-level stuff. And when you consider things like consoles and stuff like that, yeah, it's not going anywhere. I just want an ABI break with obsolete, stupid features removed. That would be nice. That's the pipe dream, right? All right. All right, so ads are done. So I know our timer was a little bit off there, but ads are actually done. So thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. I enjoy modern C++ a lot, but most of the issues can be traced back to its C legacy. That's somewhat true. A lot of its issues were just kind of. I mean, you can't really blame templates on C, can you? C legacy is the best part of C++. I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%. That's why I use C and not C++. All right. I think I saved this. Did I build it? I don't remember. It's just doesn't look like I did. Okay. All right, and let's try running this again. Okay, so this looks like another place where we're not checking to make sure that properties exists, which is not surprising. Token type identifier. So that's 553. So if not current object properties, current object properties equals darray create, and that's going to be case and property array. All right. Did we shut that off? Linux is rewriting its kernel in Rust. Yeah, I did hear about that. I mean, like I said, Rust has its place. I get it. But that place isn't for everything, right? Just like C isn't for everything, just like C++ isn't for everything. You don't think they're rewriting any of the kernel, just allowing code to be written in it? Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, but modern C++ does nothing to fix that. Compiler is a bit more strict, which is good. Yeah, that's true. I'll agree with that. But otherwise, not many good things it brings. Yeah, I mean, constant expressions are really nice, right? I would like to have that. That'd be neat. But yeah, it is really mostly just it's opinion, right? You know, good versus bad is opinion, for sure. All right. Did I build this? I think I did, but yeah, it looks like it. Okay. All right, so let's try this again. Is current object? Oh, current object is null. Okay, so that's interesting. Why would that have happened? Why would our current object be null? So when are we setting current object to anything? Okay, so we set it here when we create the initial root object. When we open a curly brace, we set current object to the thing that we just created. Oh, wait a minute. That's property count -1. Do we take that property count after? Yes, we do. Okay, so that should be... This should be valid. Do we have anything else that does this? Just this. So we are going to actually wind up with a potential issue here. So I need to actually duplicate this logic down here. Okay. But when we do a stack push, we set the current object to the object that was just created. That makes sense. What about a stack pop, though? So when we close, we do not set the current object here, and that's probably why. So whenever we're ending a block or ending an array, we need to kind of do the same thing. All right, so when we do... Oh, this was probably wrong, that's why. We're popping straight to this, which is the current object. So let me see what this is actually doing under the hood, because I haven't actually used this a lot. So let's do... So let's see, we take... that's the issue. So we do a copy out to out element data, which technically speaking, we're taking the address of current object, popping to that, which should give us the right thing. Oh. When we push onto the stack, I believe that's taking a copy of the memory in element data. Yes, it is. So we're actually pushing incorrectly. We should be pushing the address of current object onto the stack, because that's what we want to hold on to, right? We want to hold on to a pointer to the current object, not the current object itself. And then when we pop from that, we pop off the pointer. That should be... Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. Tomatoes cannot be trusted. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Same goes to Sarah CTK and Trev Spires. Thank you for the follow. Okay. Lunchtime. Have a good one. See you later, Diamond. Thanks for joining. All right. Actually, I didn't even look. Did we clicked out of that a little bit too soon? Okay. So let's do a run through of this again. Get rid of that. See what we get. Cannot include more than one decimal in a numeric literal. First occurrence 1, position 399. Okay, so that likely means that we're not resetting that logic, which is interesting. It got that far. So let's just take a quick look at what it's parsed so far. So I guess we'll look at, right, it's supposed to be populating this thing, but then it's saying there's another one like all the way down here. This is probably the one that it ran into. So we probably just didn't reset that whenever we pushed something onto, or we stopped processing a value, right? I'm guessing that's what it is. So let's see, cannot include more than one decimal. Okay. So when we operator dot start a numeric literal. So when we push a numeric literal onto the properties, where do we do that? Let's see. That's going to be we kind of build up the numeric literal string in here. Okay, so we do that after the new line. We don't reset it down here. That's what it is.
Nice work, man. Keep it going.
Eve, thank you for the super chat there. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. You use NeoVim to edit and VS Code to debug for now. Yeah, I'm going to be switching debuggers here very soon. But yeah, I like NeoVim to edit and VS Code to debug for now. It's a very temporary solution. I need to get more comfortable with a cross-platform debugger. Right, I'm on Windows now, so theoretically I could use something like Remedy BG, but that's Windows only, right? And I'm going to be switching over to Linux soon. So, okay, so. Let me see. So down here, I need to basically say numeric literal string position. What was it? Maybe decimal? Decimal position, that's what it was, equals -1, right? We need to reset that as the default. That's essentially what's happening right now is it's we're using this to detect if our numeric literal string that we're sort of composing already has a decimal position in it. And so when we're actually creating and parsing out this numeric literal and turning off the expect numeric, we are not taking that into account. So we need to reset that so that that false flag doesn't appear later on when we do another one. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we should probably also do... We should probably reset the string too, right? So U32 string length. We're going to do... Actually, let's just call this num lit length equals string length. And we'll do numeric literal string. And then we'll do K0 memory. The block is going to be numeric literal string. The size is going to be size of character times num lit length. Right? So we should probably reset that also, just so that we don't have multiple weird values in there. Clean memory every time. All right. Let's try this again, see what we run into. Failed to parse string to float, position 400. Interesting. So why did that fail? Let's take a look at that. Right, so we'll just set a breakpoint here, restart. All right, so our numeric literal string. Oh, there was one more thing we didn't reset, that's why. Okay. So we also need to reset numeric literal string position to the first character. Okay. Let's run again. We didn't get any errors. Parse result is true. Let's examine the tree. All right, so let's see. Let's close some of this other stuff out. I don't need that. Keep this scene file sort of loaded over here. So our tree has a single root. This is just an unknown or unnamed object, right? It has properties. So it has a test property over here, and it has a value of negative 0.2, right? So parse the float correctly, right? So we know our union is working correctly as well. So we're going to have to do, we're going to have to say under here, tree roots sub-0, and then we need properties. Actually, I think this has to be a dot here, and then we'll say under properties we have 3 of those. What did I, should this be? What expression must have a pointer type? Which one of these did I get wrong? Let me look at the, oh, it's tree. Tree is not a pointer at this scope. There we go. Okay, so our 3 properties. Got a couple small issues here. Not entirely unexpected. So the first property type is a number, which makes sense because this is a number, right? So our first property parsed correctly. Our second property is an object, right? So that should be an object. It did parse the name properties correctly. Did it put anything into the object? Yes, it did. So we have a type of object here, right? And then its properties. Its first is unknown. Okay, and that's because it's a string. We probably didn't assign that, but its value is test scene. So it actually went all the way down here and built that out correctly as well. So I guess we could just do, I might have to write something to visualize this tree a little bit easier, right? Because this window is kind of not the greatest for that. So let's do, I guess, roots properties. And then let's take a look at properties. Whoops. So let's say roots properties. And then we'll take a look at sub. Well, okay, if this top one worked, the second one probably worked too, but we'll take a look at sub 1. And then, let's see. That's not an array anymore, so that's just going to be properties. And then let's see. We are in roots properties, which is properties. So we actually need properties sub 1 of that property. Where is it? Object. Value.o dot properties. I think. Yeah, so there's name and test scene. So from that, we are going to need properties sub 1, which is going to be description, and then a simple test scene, yo. So it is parsing this guy correctly, which is awesome. So our nodes is going to be the next set of properties. So let's do this. We'll set that to sub 2. And then this is probably also going to be wrong. So let's do sub 2 value O. And we'll do, let's actually take a look at that first. So this one did not get added. So I'm guessing this is probably because it's the, oh, it's not the last property though. We didn't add this one. So this one got successfully added to our tree. This one did not for some reason. Oh wait, this is roots, sorry. Roots 0. No, this should be under roots 0. And then properties sub 2. Sub 1 was properties. Yeah, sub 2 should be nodes, and it never got added to the list. Okay. All right, so that's the next thing that we're going to have to investigate is why this guy didn't get added to the list. All right, let me catch up a little bit on chat. I don't think I'm going to be able to read all of this because it looks like you guys have been chatting back and forth, which is awesome. Let's see. Hey, Riley. You moved over from YouTube. Okay. I could tell this is a programmer from the beard. Only veterans have a war beard. Yeah. Yeah, it's coming out nicely, I think. Hi, Joaquin. Thank you for the stretch redeem. I actually kind of need that. All right. Let's see. Pazwa, thank you for joining us, by the way. I see your first time chat, so welcome. Let's see. The A house. Oh, a stream on human hours. Yeah, exactly. Depending on where you are, right? I usually wind up streaming after work at night, my time, but that unfortunately doesn't line up for a lot of people, so it was good that we were able to get an extra stream in today, for sure. Pazwa, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Riley, thank you for the follow. Joaquin, thank you for the follow. Appreciate the follows, guys. Okay. So, the question is, we have essentially this nested object, more or less, right? This might actually be... So actually this foo, I don't think I added either. That would be sub 3, right? And that didn't get added either for some reason. And that should be roots 0 properties 3, right? So for some reason, it just like booted out. before we got to this point. So we'll have to kind of debug through that to figure out why. Let's see. So I think, let's see. Maybe I'll have to set, let's take a look at that, that array code actually. So when we actually do, up here at the top, when we actually close these things, so we have curly brace open, curly brace close. We pop that into current object. So we may have to do a little bit of looking, because theoretically, I'm guessing what's happened is when we, let's see, our current object is, our current object is always taken from something that should already be pushed to the array. Right, so we do that, so we push, when we pop, that means that we should be on the stack previously. So as we open the object, we are already pushing it onto the array. So that should be, that should already be in that array. We shouldn't have to actually push it at the end, because I was thinking like maybe we just reached the end of the loop and we don't like push the last thing under the stack, but that's not necessarily the case, right? Because, well, it might be the case for this guy, but this one isn't actually getting pushed either. So we have a bracket close. Oh, this is wrong, by the way. Copy pasta issues here. This should already be pushed. So I guess on the open, are we doing, so curly brace open, type properties, we push it into the value array, and then we take the pointer out of that array. And then we push that onto the stack as our current object, right? When we come back out of that, all we do is pop it. That's all we should have to do. Shouldn't have to modify it anything at that point. We're just changing scope at that point. Again, when we do open, we create this, we push it into the property array. We then take a pointer to that. And we push that onto the stack. This all looks correct. Like it's basically the same logic, right? But I'm wondering if this is just not doing what it should be doing because it's an array type and not an object type. Literally the only change is this between the two. Right, this is all the operator details and all of this stuff. I don't think any of this applies either. Unless it's something that we're doing foobar with the new line stuff, but I don't think that's true either. I'm going to have to think about that one for a minute. Let's see. Memory leak is the tiniest problem in comparison to not knowing what's going on with your memory. I mean, I would agree with that, right? Oh, we have ads. So for those of you who are new to the stream, we do get ads served to us on the Twitch side once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds, or up to 90 seconds. So I know things work a little bit differently over on the YouTube side, but we just pause the stream just so that nobody misses any content. I do put a timer on the screen as well, so that if you need to hydrate, which you should be doing, you can go ahead and do that as well. And then, I go ahead and hydrate as well. Or in my case, drink coffee, which is probably not as good, but I do have water here as well that I've been drinking, so. When you use RAII, you don't have a clue where this object is actually freed. That's true. Maybe you do at first if your program is smaller, but when it scales, say to 100K lines, good luck. That's why you have to be careful how you manage that stuff. Yep. And that's why we manage that stuff very carefully in this engine as well. We do have things that we don't necessarily care about, but more often than not, we're pretty pedantic in how we create stuff and where. All right, and ads are dead. So, I think we've been going for 3.5 hours at this point, which I think has been pretty good. We've actually made some decent progress. But I think this is probably where I'm going to call it for today, just because I actually do need to get some other stuff done. So I do want to thank you guys for sticking with me and joining me here. It's been very interactive today, and I really, really appreciate you guys. So I definitely appreciate all of you showing up here. If you haven't already, I would say follow me in the places and do the thing, and I'll drop my social links here so you guys have that, so that you're notified next time I go online, stuff like that. I really do appreciate you guys following me, and feel free to spread the word too, because I'm trying to grow the channel, right? We are building a game engine from scratch as an educational resource, as a way to build an engine. And I'm kind of trying to create the resource I wish I had when I was making it. So, let's see. Who am I going to raid for today? Let me see who is online. Let's see. Let's go with, unless you guys have any ideas of who to raid. Thank you guys for the follows, by the way. Appreciate it. Let's see. I think Twitch recently changed like the UI for this, so it's taken me a little bit to kind of get used to it. Let's go with Spiro online. I don't think he is. Nope. Pirate Software isn't online either. All right. I think I'm just going to choose somebody random today, actually. Let's see. Who is... Oh, I know who I'm going to stream. Okay, actually, I see. We are going to stream TCAP today. We're going to raid TCAP, rather. Because TCAP is awesome. And he was in the chat earlier, actually. So we are going to raid TCAP today. Thank you guys so much for the follows and stuff. I really appreciate it. And thank you for joining me here. And I will see you guys on the next one. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys... what is it? Wednesday. And cool. I'm going to raid now. See you guys.
So 1 minute later, when I look at my code again, I always paste